Hi, I'm Anna Padres.
And I'm Keith Norval.
Good morning, York Elementary. We are here in our art studio. Keith and I are both professional painters here in Raleigh. So this is one of my paintings that I did, and I love to paint animals and nature, and I love to use a lot of color.
And over here I have one of mine. This is the Acrocanthosaurus, which, if anyone has been to the North Carolina Museum of Science downtown, this is based on that big skeleton in the dinosaur room, also nicknamed the Terror of the South. So that's just some of our work that we do. So what we are going to be covering today is we're going to go over getting your work area set up, doing some color mixing, and then how to apply paint for your part of the mural.
Yay, let's go do it.
All right.
So we'll be working with acrylic paint. The paint that we're using is actually artist grade, so it's really nice paint. The thing about it though is it does not wash out of your clothes. So you'll need to wear old clothes that already have paint on them if you have clothes like that. If you don't, you'll need to wear an apron. Okay, stop.
So the next step that you'll want to do is prepare your work surface. So you can either, if you have an old tablecloth, you can use that. Or you could also get just some newspaper and put some newspaper down. If you're doing newspaper, I'd probably put a couple of layers. And this is just so you don't get paint wherever you're working. If you have somewhere you don't mind getting paint on, you could just work right on that surface.
Okay, to get your workspace set up, you are going to need a cup of water. An old spaghetti jar works. Have your paintbrushes, your kit with your mural supplies. If you have a plastic palette, you can use that. If you don't have one of these, a plastic lid works really well, or a spaghetti jar lid, or even a piece of tin foil. And also you'll want some paper towels. Hi! So I am now going to show you how to mix your colors and paint your Tyvek so that you can have your piece go into the mural. So when you look at this dog, your group of palette colors is going to be doing the white fur part of the bulldog. So that's why when you look at your colors, we gave you a lot of white and a little bit of blue, red, and turquoise. Because we want you guys to be able to mix some pastel colors. So pastel means that it's a lighter color, like it's mixed with white. So in order to mix pastel, what you're gonna do first is put some white on your palette. Okay. Wash your brush out good. And now, to make a pastel, you just need a little bit, like a dot of blue. Mix that in to your puddle of white and you get your pastel color. So there's a light blue. Now I'm going to take some of this blue over here. I'm going to add a little more white. And then you see I'm washing my brush in between every color that I add so that I don't contaminate the colors that are in my dishes. I'm going to get a touch of red. A little goes a long way. Just a tad. And I mix that in and I get light purple. So a lot of white and just a little bit of colors. Let's see. Now, let's do a light turquoise. So putting more white in. First, you guys see 2 or 3 big scoops of white. And then just a little bit of turquoise. Not even a scoop, just a little bit on my brush. We want to keep the fur really light. So that's why we're doing it like this. And then I can make a pink by putting a little bit of white, or a lot of white, a few scoops of white, and then a little bit of red. There's my pastel pink, really light. And then I want to do, I want to see what happens if I mix red and turquoise together. What do I get? Oh, I get kind of a darker blue. So that's a pretty cool color. I'm gonna make some more of that. Ooh, purple, dark purple. That is way too dark for the fur, but I'm gonna show you guys what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna paint this down first. This is my first layer. Painting it really thin because I want it to dry quickly. And then I'm gonna build up some texture on top of it. Spreading it out, spreading it out. Okay, now I'm gonna need to make some more, and I may just make it a different color slightly just to make it more interesting, adding the turquoise back in but not adding any of the red. So I'm getting this nice dark blue color. So I know I said we're gonna keep this really light, and now I've painted something really dark, but just remember this is gonna just be the background and very little of it is gonna show in the end. So, okay, so now I've covered it all, and I'm gonna, it's already almost dry. Okay, I'm just gonna let it dry for a minute. And then, once it's dry, pretty much dry to the touch, actually I may take my paper towel and just wipe off the extra paint so that I don't have to wait for it to dry. Oh, I'm getting some nice Tyvek texture there. It's pretty cool. Okay, so now I'm gonna go over it with white. And I'm gonna do some sections of it. And then I can go and do my fur texture like this with the other side of my brush. So that's how it's gonna end up being mostly white, but still show the fur texture of the colors in the background. So I'm gonna do a little bit of that over here too. And here, you can really gouge in with your brush to get these lines because the Tyvek is really strong and it won't tear. Okay. So now I've got a couple sections done. I'm gonna do some of my other colors that I mixed. Like my pink here, I'm gonna do a little pink section. And I'm gonna do my fur texture. Let's see. Now I'm gonna do my light turquoise section over here. And then, let's see, my purple section, my pastel purple section down here. It's okay if we blend some of these colors together. If I lose some of my fur texture, I can go back. As long as the paint is wet, I can go back. Once it's dry, I won't be able to carve through it anymore. Okay, now I have not used my blue, my light blue yet, so I'm gonna come over here and do that. I'll mix it with my white a little bit. That's okay. Okay. finish out with my fur texture. So you guys can see when I scrape through this, I'm getting blue fur because I had blue underneath. So really, you can do any color you want to for your first layer if you're gonna do this technique. Start out with any darker color and then go over it with your lighter colors and carve through. And then when you get done, when we put all of these together, we're gonna have a nice fur texture that's lighter colored for this doggo. When you get done with your piece, make sure you put your lids back on your paints and then wash your brushes really good. You might even want to take them to the sink and put some soap to get them really clean.
Okay, so I am going to show you guys a different approach from Anna's. So I've got the colors she's already mixed, and I'll use some of those. So what I am going to do with mine is start kind of building up different spots of color. So first I'll maybe mix just a couple more, a little bit more of these colors so I have some to work with. So I'm just going to put some white in these trays and then add, I'm just going to mix a bunch of this. So that's got turquoise. This one I'll do a little blue. So just like Anna, I'm not putting a ton of color. I'm just getting a dot on the end of my brush and lots of white because we don't want to make this too dark because otherwise it will blend in with our other sections. Okay, so what I want to do with mine is I'm going to do lots of little dashes and kind of do an overall texture like that. So think about fur when you're working. So one way you could collaborate is with your family members is if you want to build up, everyone could pick a different color and maybe do different dots. So if anyone's familiar with Seurat, the French painter, he did like a pointillist approach. So he was using a tiny brush and doing little dots. I'm doing more vertical dots, but this is sort of inspired by his approach. So you don't want to fill everything in with the same color. Then I'll take my brush, clean that, and then I will switch to, let's do this light blue. So just building up different colors. So looking at it, it's looking like I think I need to lighten it a little bit. So I'm going to try to add some more light colors. So we'll do this kind of turquoise white. So don't be afraid to cover up the other dots that you have. Okay, so at this point, I think I'm going to use a hairdryer and dry it. And then I'll come back in just a second and show you guys the next layer. Okay, so I went ahead and used a hairdryer on this, and I've dried all the paint, so that way it won't blend in with the other layers. So I'm going to go ahead and add more fur texture. So this time I'm thinking I'll use a little bit of this darker color and then do a light color over it. So I've got this darker blue. So as I'm working, I'm thinking about fur. So I know this is looking darker, but I'll go back and lighten everything up with another color on top. Okay, so I think that looks good for that. Then I'll switch to, I'm just gonna get some white on my brush and get a little bit of this color. So that's a good technique if you're trying to mix just a little bit in, get a lot of white, and just grab a little bit of paint with your brush. And you can always add more. You don't have to mix the entire thing to get a light color. So now I'm sort of covering up some of these other dots that I did a little bit. So some of it will show through, and then some of it gets blended in. Because I don't want it way too dark, because then the overall effect, might have too many dark spots. So we try to lighten this up a little bit. And this part's pretty fun. You're just adding lots and lots of little dots. Okay, so I think I kind of like how that looks. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that one at that. You can always let this dry again, or I could use a hairdryer and then add more dots if you would like. So I'm going to compare this to Anna's and see. So there they are together. So it's kind of two different approaches to the dog fur. But I think that'll look good together. So, well, I'm excited to see what everybody comes up with your paintings for this project.